Could all please join me and bow your heads? O God, from whom all power comes, and by whose divine will we all must abide, we thank you for our civil liberties and our freedom, for our opportunities and for our privileges. We beg of you to bless, assist, and enlighten the members of this board here in our magnificent county, Pinellas. May we prove worthy of the confidence placed in us by our fellow citizens. May we be just and upright in our thinking, honest in all our actions, and ever be guided by a true conscience in the actions we propose or vote on this afternoon. Please forgive us, Lord, all of our mistakes and selfish tendencies, and help prepare us by our very good deeds today for an eternal life with you, through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Long. That was beautiful. And with that, we will go to the introductions of the board members today, and I'm going to start with one of my most favorite commissioners, Cliff Mertz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's very kind. I'm Commissioner Cliff Mertz from the City of Safety Harbor, representing Safety Harbor, Oldsmar, and Tarpon Springs. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Councilmember Brandy Gabbard, City of St. Petersburg.
Good afternoon. I'm Patty Reed, City Council of the wonderful city of Pinellas Park.
I'm Bonnie Noble, council member for Kenneth City, representing the inland communities.
Dave Eggers, Pinellas County Commission. I apologize for being late. I didn't know that I was the quorum. So I'm glad
Very
I didn't
special.
stop and do something else on the way here. So anyway, sorry for being late today.
And that just speaks to how very important you are to this board, Commissioner Eggers. I am Janet Long. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm a Pinellas County Commissioner. I represent the entire county, and I'm very happy to be here this afternoon. Thank you.
I am Whit Blanton, the Executive Director of Ford Pinellas.
Hi, I'm Cookie Kennedy. I'm the mayor of the city of Indian Rocks Beach, and I represent all the beautiful beach communities of Pinellas County. With that, Tina, are there any citizens wishing to be heard on any item not already on the agenda for action by the board today?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have a David Ballard Geddes Jr. here today, and you have 3 minutes, sir.
Hi, good afternoon. David Ballard Geddes Jr. I live on Georgia Avenue in Palm Harbor. I'm here in protest to the construction of the roundabout on alternate 19 in Palm Harbor. During the town hall meeting last year, the residents overwhelmingly rejected the proposed roundabout development. The fire chief in Palm Harbor also expressed his disapproval to the roundabouts, citing that the roundabout served as a roadway impediment in that it obstructs emergency vehicles. To my understanding, alternate US Highway 19 is the only designated highway in Florida to have such a roundabout. The roundabout on alternate 19 is not a warranted form of infrastructure, as 90 to 95% of the vehicles travel in a north to south direction. Only 5% of the traffic enters the road at right angles, and the location utilizes a standard stop sign as protocol. The roundabout does not serve to decongest our roadways. Such impediment is counterproductive in alleviating road congestion. Times Square in New York City does not have a roundabout. So when I compare big apples with oranges, why should alternate 19 in Palm Harbor be forced against our will to bear such an imposition that ultimately is a misappropriated cost for the residents to bear? The county has appropriated $2.6 million to construct this roundabout that is deliberately intended to impede the efficiency of vehicular travel. In order to alleviate congestion in an effective manner, overpasses on US 19 should have been installed clear through Weeki Wachee 25 years ago. Negligence on not constructing efficient roadways is unacceptable behavior of government moving forward. Ultimately, I think there is more to this roundabout issue than what legislation is currently disclosing to the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Whit, do you want to respond?
Just a point of clarification, this is a Florida Department of Transportation funded project.
Thank you. Tina, is there anyone else who'd like to be heard at this time?
No, Madam Chair, there is not.
Thank you. Before we go on, I would like to have Commissioner Floyd introduce himself.
Yeah, I'm City Council Member Richie Floyd, St. Petersburg, District 8.
Thank you. We are at recognitions and announcements. Whit, would you like to take over?
Sure. Well, I would like to introduce everybody to our new active transportation planner, Kyle Simpson. Kyle, you want to come up to the podium for a minute? Kyle comes to us from the city of St. Petersburg, where he started his career and got involved in a lot of interesting projects for the city. And we're really excited to have Kyle and his technical knowledge come to countywide perspectives. Kyle, is there anything you'd like to say about your background or what you hope to accomplish while you're here?
Thanks, Whitney. You covered it pretty well. Coming from the regional transportation side from the city of St. Pete allowed me to kind of hit the ground running here, having worked with the staff at Ford Pinellas, Barta, Psta, all of our regional partner agencies over the past 6 years. So I'm excited to work with the team at Ford Pinellas and all of you to advance active transportation in the county and region.
Well, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Anyone have any questions for Kyle? Okay, thank you.
Kyle is the first of several new staff members we're going to be introducing to you over the next few meetings. We have 2 other staff people who will be joining us in September. One is a new communications manager who replaces the capable Amy Elmore. And then we have a new transportation planner who will be supporting Chelsea on the development of the long-range transportation plan. And she comes from Texas A&M University. And then we also have another position that we're looking to fill, and we hope to have an announcement on that fairly soon. So we will keep you posted.
Next, we will handle the consent agenda. Do any board members wish to pull any items from the consent agenda today?
Move approval.
Second.
Tina, did you get who move and approval?
Yes, ma'am.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 6 is our public hearings, and we will now move into the public hearings, which will be conducted as follows. We will have the Ford staff to present the item, and the applicant local governments are available for questions as needed. Once each presentation is given, we will have the proponents, the opponents, and finally any other citizens who wish to comment or ask questions on the case. And then we will hear rebuttal from the applicants as necessary and a staff response or summary.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy, and good afternoon to the members of the board. For the record, Nosheen Rahman, planner at Ford Pinellas. In front of us today, we have the first of 3 cases, which is CW 22-15, submitted by the city of Clearwater. And in this case, the city is seeking to amend a property from the office category to the retail and services category. And the purpose of this amendment is to allow for the development of a car wash. The subject property is located at 1640 Gulf to Bay Boulevard, and currently it consists of an office use, specifically a bank with an associated parking lot, and surrounding uses include other retail, commercial, single-family residential, and recreation open space that you can catch a glimpse of on this aerial map. Now, as mentioned, the subject property consists of an office, specifically a bank, and that is the front of this property. Next, we have north of the subject property, which shows you the associated parking lot. And lastly, south of the subject property, showing you the view of Gulf to Bay Boulevard. Now, this property that you see here, the amendment area is outlined in black, but the area to the north is actually the bank itself. The amendment area just consists of the parking lot area. And in front of you, you can see the permitted uses and density and intensity standards for the office category. The city and the applicant have identified this parcel as underutilized. Essentially, the parking lot that is associated with the bank is just larger than the bank actually needs. That is why the applicant is proposing an amendment to the retail and services category to allow for a car wash on the portion of the parking lot or on the portion of the property that is a parking lot. So the bank will remain unchanged, but we'll just be making better use of the associated parking lot. So you can see that here in the proposed category and the permitted uses and density and intensity standards for the retail and services category. To conclude, the proposed amendment is appropriate for its intended purpose and is consistent with the locational characteristics for the retail and services category, and it is consistent with the countywide considerations in section 6531 of the countywide rules, which are listed in front of you here. And lastly, there were no public comments received for this case, concluding this presentation.
Thank you, Nasheen. I just want to note that Kyle Brotherton from the City of Clearwater staff is here if any of the board members have any questions. Tina, are there any proponents?
Madam Chair, there are no proponents, opponents, or other citizens wishing to be heard on the case.
Thank you. We will close the public hearing, and I would like to see if there are any questions from the board.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. David Geddes Jr. again. I didn't realize you wished to speak on this item as well. Thank you.
Will this proposed, David Ballard Geddes Jr., Georgia Avenue, Palm Harbor. Will this proposed car wash be allowed to have its own well point? Will it have access to the aquifer and supply its own water? Or will it rely on the city or the county to supply reclaimed water for its car wash?
Thank you for the question. When we're done, we'll have all those questions answered at the appropriate time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Are there any other questions from the audience? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. And I'm going to look to the board. Do the board have any questions at this time? Would you like to respond? Or Nasheen? Okay.
So I was just going to mention that a question like that is usually beyond the scope of the countywide considerations, but if Kyle or any other Clearwater staff want to answer that, they're welcome to come up and address it.
Good afternoon, Kyle.
Good afternoon. Kyle Brothers in Planning and Development with the City of Clearwater. So at this point, we've not received a site plan for the car wash at this point. That's what the applicant has indicated to us as the reason for this amendment. This amendment also makes this parcel one entire future land use category. So that question would be answered at the time of site development when they come through with their site plan application.
Thank you very much.
So that'll be an issue for the City of Clearwater.
Correct, yeah, we'll handle that at the local level.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Hearing none, we need a recommendation of an approval or denial.
Move approval, Madam Chair.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Nasheen is going to also, our next item is 6A2, KCW 22-17.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. This case is submitted by Tarpon Springs, and in this case, the city is seeking to amend a property from the residential low-medium category to the activity center category, and this particular subject property or amendment area will be incorporated into the existing Sponge Docks and Community Redevelopment Area Special Area Plan within the city. And the purpose of this amendment is to allow for potential mixed uses or short-term lodging uses of the amendment area. The property is located at 100 and 108 North Ring Avenue, and it is currently consisted of a single-family detached dwelling and a vacant historic structure. So these are two separate structures on the property. And surrounding uses include commercial retail, other short-term lodging uses, and primarily single-family residential uses around the area. The image here shows you the single-family detached dwelling on the left of the image, and then the historic property on the right. This actually used to be a livery stable that's no longer used as such. Next, we have west of the subject property, and lastly, an image of the south of the subject property. So the map here shows the current countywide plan map category of residential low-medium. As mentioned, it is the intent of the applicant to potentially develop this for short-term lodging uses or mixed uses. That hasn't been decided yet. Essentially what they'd like to do is by amending it to the proposed activity center category shown on this map in front of you here, that category would allow them more flexibility to allow those mix of uses or short-term lodging. And moreover, in the Sponge Docks Activity Center and the surrounding area, short-term lodging is, fits within the neighborhood characteristics, as there are other short-term lodging uses located along this corridor. So in front of you here, you have our outline permitted uses for the activity center category, and lastly, the density and intensity standards for the subcategory of community activity center, which applies to this activity center in particular. To conclude, this proposed amendment is appropriate for the intended purpose and is consistent with the locational characteristics of the activity center category. And on balance, it can be concluded that this amendment is consistent with the relevant countywide considerations in section 6531 of the countywide rules, which as usual are shown in front of you here. And lastly, there were no public comments for this case, concluding this presentation.
Thank you, Nusheen. Allie Keene is here in case any of the board members from the city of Tarpon Springs have any questions for her. Tina, are there any proponents or anyone wishing to be heard or opponents?
Madam Chair, those that have signed in for this case have indicated they're just here to support and only answer questions as the board needs.
Thank you. We'll close the public hearing and I'll open it up to questions from the board. Do any of the board members have any questions at this time? Hearing none, I'm looking for a motion.
Move to approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, we'll go to 7D, which is Pinellas Trail Overpass within the, did I miss one? Okay.
We have one more case.
We have one more case? Wait a minute. Yes, we do.
6A3, ma'am.
Case CW 2216, Pinellas County. Nusheen?
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. This last case that I'm presenting today is submitted by Pinellas County, and in this case, the county is seeking to amend various parcels from 3 categories: residential very low, residential low medium, and recreation open space, to the residential low medium and recreation open space categories. This amendment area is located in Innisbrook Resort and is part of the Innisbrook Residential Plan Development District that I will refer to as the master plan from here on out, because that's much shorter. And the purpose of this proposed amendment is to facilitate the adaptation of an existing golf course on the property into what is known as a short course, and to redevelop a portion of that existing course for new residential development. Now, the technical address for Innisbrook Resort is 36750 US Highway 19 North, but the amendment area does consist of multiple parcels within the resort itself that I will break down for you all later on in the presentation. But these parcels comprise of approximately 64.1 acres, and existing uses include recreation open space, of course, golf courses, and single-family residential homes. Surrounding uses also include single-family residential homes and commercial retail located outside of the Innisbrook Resort along US 19. Now, to set some context for this amendment area, as you all may be familiar, Innisbrook Resort is a golf resort and residential community located just south of Klosterman Road. This amendment area in particular consists of 14 separate parcels within the resort, and many of these parcels will basically amalgamate to create what is known as Parcel L, with the remaining parcels being dubbed B, D, E, G, and H. Now, this nomenclature is just based on that of the existing master plan, but that nomenclature will help me break down what's happening to each of the parcels to you later on in the presentation. The existing master plan, which is actually being amended outside of this countywide plan amendment, outlines developmental potential for the entirety of the resort. So this basically means for the entirety of Innisbrook Resort, there is a maximum residential development capacity that is allowed for the resort that can be shuffled within the resort itself. And in this case, this proposed amendment will transfer existing unused density, specifically residential density, throughout the master plan for the new residential development that is created on the portion of the golf course that will no longer be used as such. And a maximum of 180 units, again, which are unused, untapped development potential, will be designated towards that newly created parcel L. And on the flip side, approximately or exactly 92 units of existing density, which have been allocated towards parcels B, D, E, G, and H, will be extinguished because their designation will be changing from a residential category to the recreation open space category. And you will see later on how this is being broken down. So in total, there are approximately 32.6 acres of property on parcel L designated recreation open space and that are proposed to change to residential low medium. And on the flip side, there are approximately 21.2 acres of property which are designated residential low medium and are proposed to amend to the recreation open space category. And the reason I bring this up is because a key goal for the applicant and for the county was to reduce the loss of recreation open space lands within Innisbrook Resort. And currently 73% of the resort is designated recreation open space. And as a result of this proposed amendment, that will reduce to 71.5%, which county staff, as well as us here at Fort Pinellas, really consider de minimis when you look at the grand scale of Innisbrook Resort itself. Now, because this is a very large amendment area and on a closed private residential area, what I've just done to give you an idea of what's physically on the ground is zoomed in on those aerial pictures so you can see the existing golf course, and you can also see where there are existing structures that are already built within the amendment area. Now, getting down to the actual details of this amendment, what I've done is I've broken down what is being proposed into 3 different subparts. And all of these are labeled on the map to the right here, which show the current countywide plan map categories. So for the first part, we'll look at parcels L1, L3, L4, and L5, which total approximately 42.8 acres, and they are currently designated residential low medium and recreation open space. Next, we have parcels B, D, E, G, and H, which are located to the south of the map in front of you, and total up to 16.7 acres, and are currently designated residential very low and residential low medium. And lastly, we have the remainder of parcel L, parcel L6, L7, L8, L9, and L10, which comprise 4.6 acres of the amendment area and are all designated residential low medium. So on this next map and table here, you can see what is happening to these different parcels. The first set of parcels, L1 through L5, are going from those 2 categories, residential low medium and recreation open space, all to the residential low medium category. So this essentially means that any of those parcels that are recreation open space within those 4 parcels are all going to residential low medium. Next, for parcels B, D, E, G, and H, they are going from residential very low and residential low medium all to the recreation open space category, which is how the applicant and the county work to sort of reduce that loss of recreation open space by also turning some residential land into recreation open space lands. Same thing below for parcels L6, L7, L8, L9, and L10. These are all going from residential low medium to recreation open space. And all of that you can see on the map in front of you is the proposed countywide plan map category. And all of those parcels in parcel L just have been broken down into those subnumbers just to get a better understanding of what's happening at a more microscopic level. But they all essentially form parcel L, of course, except for the parcels which are B, D, E, G, and H. These next slides just show the typical permitted uses and density and intensity standards for the various categories. So we have residential very low, residential low medium, and lastly, recreation open space. But one other thing that we also had to consider for this case was the fact that it was located partly in the coastal high hazard area. So approximately 4.9 out of 64.1 acres of the amendment area is located in the CHHA, and that comes up to about 7.6%. And I've listed here in front of you exactly which parcels the CHHA encroaches upon. So you can see that there are 6 parcels here, as well as their acreages, which are pretty minimal. And you can also see the current categories that they're at. They're all residential low medium, and the proposed categories that they're going to, 2 of which stay residential low medium, and 4 of which go to recreation open space. And this will be key in our consideration because new residential development as a result of this proposed amendment, will either be occurring only on lands which are already designated residential low medium, meaning that they were already in the CHHA and were already allowing residential development, or they will be going to categories which will completely extinguish the residential density that could have been allowed on them. So 4 out of the 6 parcels in the CHHA are going to the recreation open space category, meaning that residential density can no longer be allowed on those parcels. Furthermore, locally, the proposed amendment actually reduces the maximum residential density allowed from 10 units per acre to 5 units per acre. At the countywide level, this is higher, but locally, they are doing more to restrict that residential density on the, in the amendment area. And lastly, as I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, this proposed amendment is not adding any new residential development potential to the area as a result of these changes, but rather using developmental capacity that was allowed for the entirety of Innisbrook Resort and just shuffling that around. So we're not increasing the residential capacity of the entirety of the resort, but just using what hasn't been taken already. So to conclude, this proposed amendment is appropriate for the intended purpose and is consistent with the locational characteristics for the residential low medium and recreation open space categories. And on balance, it can be concluded that this proposed amendment is consistent with the relevant countywide considerations contained in section 6531 of the countywide rules. Those are shown here in front of you. And lastly, we at Forward Pinellas did not receive any public comments regarding this case, but as some of you may be aware on our board, at the county level or at the local level, staff did receive multiple public comments, both for approval and opposition from this case. But from what we've been informed, county staff have maintained discourse with those residents who expressed their comments and have worked with them to alleviate those concerns or just address those questions. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Nasheen. I just want to add to that Scott from the Pinellas County staff is here in case any of the board members have any questions. Tina, is there any proponents, opponents, or anyone wishing to be heard on this agenda item?
No, Madam Chair, none that have indicated they wish to speak.
Thank you. I'm going to close the public hearing and open it up to the board members. Do any of you have any questions for Nasheen or for Scott? Hearing none, looking for a motion.
Second.
You have both of those, Tina? All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Great job, Nasheen, on that presentation.
Wow, you really, yes. We're going to go to presentations, the PSTA activities report, and we're going to have Cassandra come up at this time because Gina Driscoll from St. Pete is not with us today.
Gina let me know earlier that she was not feeling well today, so sorry she couldn't make it.
Maybe I'll just do the report from here if that's all right.
Perfect.
Good afternoon, Cassandra Borchers from PSTA. I'm the Chief Development Officer, and this has been 2 months of PSTA work without a report. So I got to pick the best stuff to talk to you about, and I couldn't think of anything better than just to announce a bunch of money that we're going to get. Mm-hmm. So let me start from the top. The Sunrunner is opening October 21st. You should all receive an invitation to whatever the surprise event will be. Even I don't know what that event will be yet. But we are very excited for this to be the first true BRT in the region, and we're very excited to open up the Sunrunner. As part of that, we will be making additional service changes to our routes, the Route 18, the route and the Central Avenue trolley. We'll be making changes, and we'll be holding a public hearing tomorrow at noon at our facility in order to discuss those changes with riders. But those changes have always been part of our plans for the Sunrunner opening. In June, our staff presented to the board about the electrification of our fleet. As some of you may know, we are looking to purchase 60 new electric buses over the next 5 years, and we do have a funding shortfall for that. However, we did receive news in June that we will be getting an $18 million grant from the Bus and Bus Facilities Program in order to support 12 to 14 of those new electric buses. We're also awaiting an announcement from the VW settlement, so we've applied for an additional set of buses to be supported out of that program as well. Another project that we'll be working on with the City of St. Petersburg and the Florida Department of Transportation is an award for $360,000 to go to the area of South St. Pete Community Redevelopment area. So we've been working with the community along the Sunrunner route on a transit-oriented development project, and as a spin-off project, we looked to the Department of Transportation to help us look at 22nd Street. So in looking at 22nd Street and the access to the Sunrunner station, we applied for a grant from the Federal Transit Administration through their Areas of Persistent Poverty program. So we were able to take $20,000 from the Florida Department of Transportation, 10 from PSTA, and 10 from the City of St. Petersburg, and leverage that into a $400,000 study that will look at transportation access throughout the South Side CRA. So we are very excited about that, not just that we are going to be looking at 22nd Street and the surrounding areas, but that we were able to take those local dollars that we have and leverage them at the federal level. So speaking of that, the announcement of the day really is $20 million for our new Clearwater Multimodal Center. We could not be more thrilled to make that announcement. We heard earlier this week as a pre-announcement from our congressional leadership, Congressman Chris contacted Brad and said we will be getting our full ask from the RAISE program. This is the first RAISE grant awarded to Pinellas County, and we are very excited that this will be a centerpiece not only for the city of Clearwater, but for PSTA and its service to North County. If you needed any more announcements,
Awesome.
I don't know if I could come up with anything better than that.
Awesome, Cassandra. Does anyone have any questions for Cassandra? Good for you.
Thank you so much.
It's been a good summer.
Yes.
It's been a really hard but great summer. Yes, happy first day of school.
Thank you. Yes.
And a heartfelt thank you to all of the folks and the staff at PSTA, as well as some of the folks on the county staff and commission who worked tirelessly to bring this money down from Washington, D.C. You know, it's really a process, as some of you who have been involved in those discussions know, to get federal dollars. It's an incredibly huge investment in time and energy and work, because just the different levels and steps that you have to go through to even be considered for this kind of money is overwhelming, really. It takes anywhere from 6 to 7 years. So if you just keep in the front of your brain as Forward Pinellas board members, the amount of work that has to be done in our region for preparing for the next 5, 10, 15 years, I mean, it takes longer than that to get funding to make a huge, big dent in the overwhelming amount of traffic that we have here. And I can constantly worry about that. And we heard just the other day at the Regional Planning Council, not to steal your thunder, Brandy, but you know, the feds are prepared to give millions of dollars to Brightline. I was just chatting with Whit about that, to bring it from Orlando to Tampa. Now think about that, because that's train starting down in South Florida. So people coming up to this area, let's say they want to come to Pinellas to visit our beautiful beaches or any of the arts and culture that we have in our county. How do they do that if their end stop is in Tampa? There aren't enough taxis, Ubers, trolleys, and you know, whatever else to get them across the bridge. So we've got to really be forward in our thinking if we have any idea about bringing these dollars down from the federal level. So I just think that's an important thing for us to keep in the front of our brain.
Thank you, Commissioner Long. Anyone else this time?
I'll just add real quick that in response to that comment, we are starting our regional long-range transportation plan this fall, and Chelsea has put together a draft outline for that work, and I presented it last week to the Mpo staff directors from around our region, and we'll be developing that scope a little further based on their feedback, but that will entail essentially looking at optimal ways to connect with Brightline for Pinellas County residents. And Pasco is very interested in it, Manatee County is very interested for our whole region to have a point of convergence and develop some appropriate level of technology, types of modes that would provide an efficient connection is really critically important. And we know we'll need FDOT as partners, we know we'll need the region coming together. So I think we're poised to make that happen, but we don't yet know what it looks like. But to your point, there's no time like getting started.
Well, and there isn't, if I may, just because I forgot to mention our own District 7 staff and secretary, they could not have been a better partner over these last 5 or 6 years.
Very true.
Without them, I
Very
have no
true.
idea where we would be. So thank you to all of you.
We're going to move on to the Barta Report. Commissioner Long?
Yes, well, it's a bit extensive, but I hope you'll bear with me till the end because more to come on this subject matter. You probably all know that the governor vetoed the funding for Barta. This is the 4th out of the 5th time that we have applied for money from the state and not received it. So that puts us in a position of having to really get serious about what the next steps are. And just so you know what's on the table right now that's being done at Barta, the policy committee of Barta continues to want to hear directly from CSX, even though we've had very strong messaging from Secretary Gwynn about CSX's plans and where they are. But now the policy committee wants to hear directly from CSX regarding their plans in Tampa Bay. But in the meantime, staff continues with the request for qualifications. The RFQ was issued on July 8th and responses were due yesterday. The evaluation committee is now determining the best consultant to conduct the study while the board decides whether or not to move forward on that issue. They continue work on the US 19 regional BRT study. The team has narrowed their options to 2 alternatives, high cost, low cost, and 15 station locations. The initial design and concepts of operations weren't as cost effective, so hopefully the team is now evaluating where reductions can be made before presenting a recommendation back to the full board. The gondola study, which has been on the drawing board for at least the last 5 years for the city of Clearwater, has selected 2 possible downtown terminal locations. So the team is completing technical work on those preferred alignments, developing cost estimates, and evaluating financial options. Public input is being received over the next month through a survey and social media. The team will present recommendations to Barta and forward Pinellas' CAC and Amplify Clearwater in September, then present back to forward Pinellas, the City of Clearwater, and the Barta Board in October. The I-275 Regional BRT, the FTA approved a documented categorical exclusion for the environmental work. The team will spend the rest of the summer completing a social/cultural analysis and coordinating with the State Historic Preservation Office. They're targeting a final presentation to Barta's board in November. The FY 2023 budget. The budget will be considered during our August board meeting, which is Friday, August 26th. The new budget is 17% less than the current budget and is fully funded. This is the key, as long as member jurisdictions continue to contribute. Discussion about T-Barter's future and possibly restructuring how it's governed will also be continued. Commute Tampa Bay. Demand for the van pool program is strong and growing, driven mostly by the James Haley VA Medical Center and McDill. There were 188 van pools in July, which is an all-time high, and a 20% increase from July 2021. However, that is not a guarantee that that is still going to fall under T-Barta. I understand from FDOT that they have put that out for an RFP, so that remains to be seen. And lastly, since Pinellas County is one of the largest funders of T-Barta, I am convinced that the counties that participate in T-Barta are not going to be able to solve this problem by continuing to just give our money. And the reason for that is our money that's contributed from the local level is all going toward operations for the staff and the running of T-Barta. I can tell you from looking with a very fine pen at their budget, they are way overstaffed. They've always been way overstaffed. And to me, it's irresponsible for us to consider just funding things the way they are. It's not fair to our counties, and it's not fair to our taxpayers. Because if you really peel away the onion, the same counties and cities that participate in the Regional Planning Council are also the same counties that make up T-Barta. So why do we have this enormous expense? The Regional Planning Council does not get state money. They stopped receiving state money when Governor Scott refused to continue. He vetoed their budget, and from then it's been vetoed every year. Guess what we did? We found other ways to become relevant and to support ourselves. And so my recommendation, and I just made it at the Regional Planning Council Executive Committee, which Chair Gabbard is in charge of, to please consider making T-Barta a division underneath the Regional Planning Council. I had a long conversation with Sean Sullivan about it, and his first thing was, I can't absorb all of that in my budget. I said, well, what if you were to receive the funding from our partner counties instead of going to an independent agency? To me, it just makes sense. The Regional Planning Council already does planning. They have a transportation planner there. Maybe we can have Brian Persaro come under the Regional Planning Council. But I don't know. I'm anxious to hear what the rest of my colleagues on our commission will do. I know, as far as I know, the city of Tampa is not going to continue with their funding. It's iffy whether or not Pasco County will participate, and it's very iffy if Manatee will participate. And I think you heard of that anxiety from Commissioner Vanessa Baugh at our Regional Planning Council meeting. So that begs for a new solution to a problem that has existed for the last 4 out of 5 years. I'll let it go with that. More to come.
Any questions for Commissioner Long? Hearing none, I'm going to ask Jared to come forward and give us an update for item 7C.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Jared Austin, Principal Planner here with Ford Pinellas, and today I'm just going to be providing a brief update to our Target Employment and Industrial Land Study, or our TEAL study update, as we're calling it. So before I sort of dive into the details of what this study encompasses and sort of where we've gotten so far, I would be remiss not to mention our various partners on this work. In addition to our team over at Ford Pinellas, we have been working hand in glove with Pinellas County Economic Development, Pinellas County Housing and Community Development, as well as our consultant team and their sub-consultant, Renaissance Planning and SB Friedman. So now I want to take a little bit of time to kind of paint a picture as to where we are currently, where we've come from, and then sort of where we're headed. So just for some brief context, right now as it stands, Pinellas County captures about 38,000 businesses within this 6-county Tampa Bay region that we've identified for the purposes of this study. That translates to about 470,000 jobs within this region, and constitutes about 26% of the overall jobs capture, and we're trailing just behind Hillsborough that has about 780,000 jobs within that capture. But it's really important to understand where we've come from as well. So this is kind of a busy chart, but if you look at the chart over there on the lower right-hand side where you're looking at compound annual growth rate, it's broken up into 2 categories, from 2001 to 2011, and then from 2011 to 2021. And obviously within that 2001 to 2011 category, you see that gray box up there that says Great Recession. That obviously had a tremendous impact on Pinellas County's economy as well as the national and global economy as well. And in fact, in those office and industrial categories, which kind of make up the bulk of where our target employment sectors are found, which I'll talk a little bit more about those momentarily, you can see that we were shedding about -4% growth in our office category from 2001 to 2011. Followed by about -2.75% growth in industrial from about 2001 to 2011. Now fast forward, when you look at 2011 to 2021, we're actually experiencing growth. About 2% growth in office, about 2% in industrial, so we have rebounded, and we're seeing that constitutes to about 54,000 jobs created from 2011 to 2021. And it's split to about 45% in the office sector and about 30% in the industrial sector. So now I want to talk a little bit about kind of where we're going. With the addition of those 54,000 jobs, Pinellas County's done a pretty good job over the years of remaining what's called housing and jobs balanced. And that just means that we kind of hit closer to that nexus point, that line that you see there in the middle of the graph, that 1 point where that 1.0 number is. And when you hit that 1.0 equilibrium, that just means that your county's providing 1 job per employable resident within your county. The further you go towards the bottom, that's where you get more on the housing heavy side. The further you go to the top, above that line, you're getting more on the jobs heavy side. And where that's important from a planning perspective is if we use Pasco County as an example, that's that blue line way down there at the bottom. They're more housing rich. About 70% of their residents are commuting outside of Pasco into other counties. So that has a great strain on their various transportation networks that they have within their county because of that. Now, if you look inversely at Hillsborough County, which is that gold bar or gold line that you see on the top, they're very jobs rich. And obviously, your initial thought process might be, why wouldn't we want to be as jobs rich as possible? But just from a transportation planning perspective, because they are bringing in so many folks from that surrounding 6-county Tampa Bay region, there's a number of additional stresses put on their transportation network. And if you've ever been on I-275 or I-4 around 5 p.m., I hope you had a good podcast or audiobook to listen to throughout that journey to testify to that. So basically where Pinellas County is currently, in order to continue to reach that jobs housing balance, we need to create about 134,000 new jobs by 2050 based on our recent that are cycling money back into Pinellas County. And so if you look at this chart here, this just shows in the tunes of billions of dollars how these industries are contributing to the overall gross regional product of Pinellas County. And those solid bar charts are the overall annual GRP that was contributed by each of these sectors back in 2012. And that bar chart that you see that has more of the transparency, that's where it has currently sat since 2020. So you can see about 66% growth in business services, 48% in financial services, 50% in IT, and so on and so forth. And if you're anything like me and you're wondering what is business services, that's going to constitute things such as your corporate headquarters. It's going to constitute things such as your engineering, professional and technical services, architectural firms, those sorts of things that all are kind of clustered within that business services category. So in addition to identifying these target industries, given our limited availability for land, we also need to understand the real estate space needs of these different industries and how they differ from one another. So if you see the industries that are over there on the left, the business services, financial services, and others, those are your industries that are looking to locate primarily within your Class A office space. And not just really any Class A office space, but they want to be in a more mixed use, kind of urbanized environment. They're looking for more of that sort of live, work, play, quality of life type of balance. On the other side, we have more of the traditional industrial and headquarter office space. These are going to be your manufacturing centers that need a larger, that's the sort of larger warehousing space. They're less vertical, more horizontal. They typically have a larger land footprint here in the county. And so in understanding the different space needs that are required by these industries, it's also important for us to take a look at the inventory that we have to meet the demand of these target industries. And if we look at where Pinellas County compares with the region, while the region has about 40 million square feet of Class A office space, either existing or within the pipeline, about 70% of that exists in Hillsborough County, primarily within West Shore and downtown Tampa, followed by St. Pete. And overall, Pinellas County is capturing about 24% of that Class A office space. And these graphs that you see here, that lighter blue color is showing all the legacy class office space, so anything pre-2010. The darker blue is anything, the newer office space, so 2010 and on. And then the yellow is going to be your pipeline, so what's currently either planned or in construction. And so this has really been important for us to understand, because one of the things that it's highlighting for us is, obviously even as we talk about what this study is even called, the Target Employment and Industrial Land Study, we're realizing that there probably needs to be a greater focus on the prioritization and preservation of our Class A office space and allowing for that Class A office space to be mixed use in character so that we continue to remain regionally competitive to provide that work-life balance, that live-work-play that folks want, that specifically within those more urbanized environments. And so now just taking a look at a bit of our regional industrial inventory. Within the region, we have about 355 million square feet of industrial space that's existing in pipeline. About 36% is in Hillsborough County, and about 23% is in Pinellas County. But you'll see here that Polk County is starting to pop up within that industrial space category. You'll notice that it follows your major highways. That's largely because a lot of that existing industrial space is more warehouse and distribution focused. But when it comes to Pinellas County specifically, the industrial lands that we have primarily present with, as far as our target industries are concerned, are within the manufacturing sectors. In fact, Pinellas County has more manufacturing than both Hillsborough County and Polk County combined. So that's just an important distinction to note. And what's been really critical in understanding the industrial inventory that we have and the industrial needs of future target employers that typically need to reside on these types of industrial lands. We don't really have the new space or vacant lands available to accommodate a lot of these needs. However, the industrial lands that we do have, we probably need to be focusing more on sort of the improvement and the reinvestment in those sites moving forward. So that's just a little bit of an overview in terms of the inventory we have, the demands we're seeing from the market and trends analysis. We have a much more detailed breakdown on our website, which I'll talk a little bit about at the end. But I also do want to just talk a little bit about some of the stakeholder engagement and feedback we've been getting. We have met with the Warehouse Arts District. This is a pretty unique area, industrial land primarily. They fall under a target employment center, but there's just this very unique character about them that's been allowed to grow and flourish there, and some of the changes they need to continue that growth and redevelopment over time is sort of hindered by current industrial sort of land use practices that are going on both from a county perspective and at a local level. And so we want to address their needs, and we've had them heavily involved in our process up to this point. We've also had a discussion with our affordable housing partners throughout the county. This is, even though this is a target employment land study, we do understand that a lot of what sparked this sort of the need for us to relook at this is Senate Bill 962 and House Bill 1339, which relate directly to affordable housing. And what was particularly unique and informational coming out of that is that the affordable housing folks actually told us that they feel Senate Bill 962 just makes things more competitive for them because it's easier for the private sector to meet that threshold and secure land, whereas it's still, still more difficult for them to secure land for their projects. We've had meetings with various local governments. Recently, last week, we had our countywide planning and economic development roundtable discussion. We had economic development and planning staff from around the county who we met with to get sort of, kind of hear the boots on the ground, what's going on in your community, what are your challenges. And one thing we heard that was really good that came out of that meeting is that the local needs are different. Every community is different. Largo is not the same as Dunedin. Dunedin's not the same as St. Petersburg. I anticipate the final meeting that will have the actual policy recommendations for us to kind of talk more in detail about will probably have a larger turnout.
Yeah, and my only comment about that is that obviously what we're talking about on a countywide basis, it only works with our cities.
Yep.
At the table. And so again, there were some there yesterday.
Mhm.
St. Pete was there, Clearwater was there.
Mhm.
And so it's good, and I'm sure there were some others, but I don't want to be remiss if I miss somebody. But I think that continues to be a
Yep.
really important piece to all of this. So
Absolutely.
thank you for the great work.
Absolutely. And I'll just say too, once those policy recommendations are sort of ready to go and we're ready to start discussing those, we are going to be meeting with all of our local governments, planners, economic development staff, one-on-one, just to ensure that everyone's up to speed and on board with the process.
Well, I'd like to be invited. I know that I live in a coastal community, but I do have a mixed use back in the day before they had mixed use. So I'd just like to come and listen. I think it would be awesome to hear what you have to say. I'm always excited about mixed use. Cliff, you'd like to? Or Randy?
You had your mic first.
Okay, thank you. I just want to say that I've had the pleasure of attending 3 of them. And one thing I do like is the varied discussion and the information that's collected. And I have seen the information that's collected show up in subsequent slides. So I think that's very important that the comments that are being brought in are indeed being reviewed, incorporated, and showing up each successive time. So it's obviously a growing document, and the comments are varied, but I found them so far so good.
Great.
Thank you.
Randy?
Yeah, I just wanted to echo as a member of this work group, very glad to be there in the room. Jared, you're doing a fantastic job. The consultants are phenomenal, and the information that we are sharing, there's always the presentation, but then we break out into the roundtable groups, and that's really where the meat of it happens, right? And the feedback and just to hear what's going on across the county. And the one thing I think everyone can share in is this idea of looking for a balanced approach and what that looks like and how we continue to have jobs but also be a viable place for people to live and have quality of life. And that's really, I think, where you're trying to get to, right? Instead of having these absolutes, having this balanced approach. And so I've been very, very pleased with the process. I wanted to compliment you and Rodney and the whole staff, Nasheen. You guys have done a great job, and the consultants are just stellar. So thank you so much for all of it.
I'll pass that along to them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just one other comment.
Comments? Yes.
Yeah, and again, I didn't want to just leave with that negative comment about attendance, because I do echo your comments about, I thought there's a lot of energy and good work with the group. And it's just like, you feel like you're just getting started, and then we have to stop the meeting. There's so much material there. So, and I just, again, continue to be hopeful that we're able to identify, through the policies, some flexibility in our zoning. It's almost like, the old form-based code stuff that really didn't matter what the use was. It's just as long as the buildings looked decent, you could have different uses in it. And that's a simplistic way of kind of summarizing it, but I think our lands that have office and industrial need to have a little bit of flexibility. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out so that we can really maximize the use of our lands for these jobs. It's really going to be important. So anyway, thank you. A good job again.
Thank you, Jared.
All right. Thank you.
We're going to move on to item 7D, and I'm going to turn it over to Whit Blanton. This is the Pinellas Trail Overpass with Duke Energy.
Right. Thank you, Mayor. You may remember back in our June meeting, we had some discussion as we asked you to approve our transportation improvement program and our list of locally defined project priorities, that there was some concern about the future of potential overpasses in the Duke Energy corridor for the Pinellas Trail. And we had heard from the Florida Department of Transportation that they were unsuccessful in making headway in defining some concepts for an overpass at Gulf to Bay and Old Coachman Road, where the Duke Energy Trail traverses through the power line easement. So we invited Jeff Baker and Duke Energy to be here today to talk about what they're going through and how they're upgrading their system, and talk about any concerns you might have. So Jeff, why don't you come on up and introduce your team?
Good afternoon, Commissioners, Mayor, Council members. Jeff Baker, Manager of Government and Community Relations for Duke Energy. I'm joined today by Kim Craven. Kim is one of our principal engineers who has many years of experience, so if there are technical questions that you have, I will likely defer to his experience. I want to first off start by saying that I know at your last meeting there was some conversation that came up, and I have only seen it from a video perspective, but my interpretation of this group's response was that Duke Energy was declining to partner on this particular overpass because of safety reasons. I want to be very clear, safety is our core value of our company, but in this particular case, safety was not the prevailing reason that we made the decision that this would not be a compatible addition to our transmission corridor. In the corridors, our transmission system, just to make sure everyone understands what the transmission system is, that is basically the arteries of the electrical grid. That is what delivers electricity from our power plants to our substations. And then from our substations, it goes through our distribution system, which ultimately ends up at your home. In Pinellas County, we have basically 3 north-south corridors. I wish I had a map to show you today, but unfortunately, because this is a public forum that is televised and a permanent record is on YouTube, I am not able to publish that because we consider that to be critical infrastructure information. But I can kind of talk you through it, and hopefully this will help you understand the reason that we consider this to be incompatible. Again, we have 3 north-south corridors. The corridor at Coachman Road and Gulf to Bay, which is the one that is the subject. If you've ever passed that, I'm sure you all have, that is a several hundred feet wide corridor that currently has 3 transmission lines running through it. Go a few blocks west, we have a corridor on Belcher. That corridor is a single line that is running in right-of-way only. So again, for us to expand that would likely be impossible. If we were to expand that, we would probably have to use eminent domain, things of that nature to expand that corridor. The further west corridor would be not too far from where we're at today. It runs along Martin Luther King. So those are and again, that is a very narrow corridor as well. So those are the 3 corridors that we are working with. Of course, you all know, we all hear it all the time, we're a peninsula on a peninsula. So there's really not a lot of opportunities to bring power from a different direction. These transmission lines, of course, are very heavily regulated. They're regulated by NERC, which is the North Atlantic Electric Reliability Corporation, FERC, which is the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. And one thing, just to provide you with a little more assurances about things, Florida is only one of 7 states that actually has statutes related to EMF. And so we have more protections on our systems than the vast majority of states in the nation. Despite the fact that there has been numerous advances in energy efficiency, most of, in fact, all of your jurisdictions have moved towards LED lighting, things of that nature that use less electricity. Load growth is still happening in our area. You see it all over this county. Construction is occurring everywhere. So we know that based on our future projections, at some point in a mid-range time period, and when I say mid-range, I'm talking probably next decade, we will likely have to increase our capacity on that north-south line. Given the options that I just told you about, we have the corridor that is in question that still has space available, and then we have the other 2 corridors with very limited space. We, from a business perspective, we believe that we must do everything we can to protect that corridor. And the recommendations that were, the conceptual plans, I should say, that were provided to Duke by the DOT, we just found those to be incompatible for that future development need that will likely occur. Again, we can't say what will happen with certainty over the next 10 years, but everything, all indicators point to the fact that Pinellas County will continue to grow for many years ahead. So that that was, I just wanted to be very clear that that was the reason that we made the decision. Now, I'm not saying that because the Department of Transportation very well, what with their plan, it may very well have created a problem with clearances, under the regulatory environment. But since we were looking at conceptual plans and not engineered plans, we did not even get to the point to where we could say with certainty that that would be a safety concern. But what we do know is from a planning perspective, it would be a concern. It's one of those things, I'm very proud that Duke has been very generous with our transmission corridors through the county. We have, in Pinellas Park, we have ball fields. I know Commissioner Steele is not here today, but I remember a few years ago on a very hot afternoon attending ribbon cutting at a soccer field. Just last week we did the ribbon cutting for 5 additional miles of the Pinellas Trail. So I don't want anyone on this board to feel like that our positions has changed about working with our community partners for our corridors. It's just in this particular instance, at this particular location, we find the requested drawings, the preferred drawings that you had in partnership with the DOT to be incompatible with our future needs for that corridor. So I will take any questions that you have, and again, if you have technical questions, I will certainly ask Mr. Craven to come up because he would be happy to assist.
Any questions, Dave?
What location are we talking about now? You kept talking about corridors. Are we talking about the one at State Road 60?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And what's the latest on the overpass, or what I've assumed all along, and certainly would make sense, the overpass on 580 and the lines that you have up there. Is there any final determination on that, or is that still an open consideration?
Now, the 105, were you talking about where it goes? You talking about the existing bridge that's there?
No, there's an overpass that we had talked about, not that it's been decided on, but so because we're crossing a 6 to 8 lane road.
Understandable.
And we've had that policy in the past that we try to have a bridge to go over that. And we, at least in my thinking, when we chose that corridor, and we're very appreciative of the fact that we get to use the corridor. The element of problems with respect to any of the electrical, what do you call it?
The transmission lines.
Yeah, but the
corridor.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about the power that it generates that people are concerned with for health.
Right.
In fact, I remember people coming and complaining to us that we would choose that corridor because of that. And we assured people that, well, we're not getting any indication that that's a problem. And then when we get to the overpass, which is a safety thing from a different perspective, at least preliminarily, we're being told that that's not going to be considered either. And so, first of all, I'm frustrated that it wasn't more articulately laid out when we were considering it to begin with. I probably wouldn't have gone that route because to me it's that dangerous to send people. Now we have a red light, green light, yellow light thing there, and it's going to stop traffic on a state road, which is just wonderful for residents. They love that. But we're going to do that for now, and still in the hopes of having an overpass there. Is that one ruled out also?
Not to my knowledge. It's one of the things we look at each. We call it an encroachment. Anything that's coming into our corridor, we call those encroachments. So we look at each encroachment on an individual basis. One of the things that another comment that I probably should have made in regards to Highway 60 Coacham Road is that particular corridor. Not only is it a Duke Energy corridor, but the county has a 54-inch water main that is in there. The city of Clearwater, I understand, has a water main in there. There is, multiple underground utilities as well. So it's one of those things, if the entire corridor had the flexibility to be explored, there may have been an option that would have worked. What we are saying is, with the conceptual plans that we were presented, and knowing what the future holds for our plan development, that particular location is just not compatible. Because one of the things, think of it this way. I can tell you, like, when Councilmember Floyd was first elected, literally the first conversation I went to meet with him about was some transmission work. Siting transmission in today's world is not an easy task. Should we compromise that particular location and let something in there that we perceive to be incompatible, and we did have to do some growth? Think of the difficulty in trying to site a new transmission line running north and south in this county. It would be so costly to our ratepayers. Every one of you your phones would be blowing up because there would obviously be eminent domain, things of that nature, because it's just, we are in a very densely populated area, and there's just no room, to build what I would call a greenfield transmission line, which would be a new build transmission line.
And of course, I'm not saying that a trail trumps power to our residents. Clearly, when we have storms that come through and we don't have power, we know what havoc that creates for all of us. No, what I'm trying to understand a little bit is is this approach about the transmission problems from a health perspective something new, or is it something that you've had for decades?
Again, what I'm saying in this particular case, we are not even considering, we're making our decision that it is not a compatible structure based on future requirements of that corridor. Now, Mr. Craven can certainly talk to health-related issues that you're alluding to as far as the trail itself. Not focused specifically on Highway 60 and.
Yeah, no, I'd moved on from that location because I understand that one's pretty much done in terms of decision for other reasons. But the trail safety issue, certainly we got no indication that there was any problems at all when we chose that route. And then we certainly, from the perspective of safety with traffic, we expected to put one up over 580. And I just want to make sure that I'm understanding that that's not off the table, and that are the considerations there, they're obviously different than the ones down there.
Absolutely.
So just wondered where we were on that and the thought process.
I'll actually turn it over to Mr. Craven to talk about the health concerns, since I know you did bring up those questions in the last meeting.
Thank you. And if I could just clarify a little bit before we do that, I think the Department of Transportation, we have several folks here who can speak to this issue as well, submitted some concepts for that one location at State Road 60 and Old Coachman. We have not put any concepts together for the 580 interchange. So what I'm hearing is that if you were presented with some concepts, you would evaluate those on a case-by-case basis, and it's not a blanket no for the whole transmission line, even though it's in the same corridor. Okay. All right. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Kim Craven. I'm a principal engineer at Duke, and I'm subject matter expert on electromagnetic fields. I want to restate what Jeff has said just a moment ago, that the issue at this proposed overpass that you've been talking mostly about today had nothing to do with health safety. That may have been implied by other organizations, or the word safety may have been used, but it had nothing to do with health safety. Now, if we want to talk about EMF safety, I can address any questions you have about that in general or in specific.
Well, I'm encouraged that that particular one was not excluded due to electromagnetic fields, and that's the terminology I was trying to come up with earlier. So I'm encouraged that that didn't create the problem, so that there's that. And again, I'm not saying that there weren't other issues. If those other issues weren't there, might that have created a problem? I don't know. Do we ever get to that stage in the analysis or not? About the electromagnetic influence on people on a bridge that obviously elevates people up off the ground closer to the lines. Is that ever even talked about? Because of the other issues being prevailing issues, maybe you didn't get there, but I just was curious.
Well, from a health perspective, based on a recent in-depth review of the scientific literature, the World Health Organization concluded that the current evidence does not confirm any health consequences from exposure to electromagnetic fields of power frequency. Now, there are other types of EMF. There's radio frequency EMF, there's light wave EMF, there's cosmic ray EMF, X-ray EMF. Those are all forms of EMF, and they're often confused with power frequency EMF. Those other forms of EMF have been shown, demonstrated, can be taken to a laboratory and be demonstrated to have health effects. Power frequency EMF has never been demonstrated to cause any health effects. Now, what I said about the World Health Organization a few moments ago, that's from their website, Q&A session dated August 4th, 2016. Now, with that said, any elevated surfaces within a right-of-way would elevate the electric and magnetic fields values of anything that would be present in the elevated area. But still, it's power frequency EMF. Now, there would be concerns about maybe implanted devices. Implanted devices has a history, like EMF has a history. Let me speak to the EMF history just for a moment, just a few sentences, that electric and magnetic fields at these levels have been around for 90 years. Now, they're more prevalent today because there's more infrastructure, because there's more people, and there's more demand for electricity as opposed to 1920, 1930. So the fields have been there. Now, the implanted devices that people have, that basically started back in the 1960s with pacemakers. And some of the earlier pacemakers that were implanted, the people that received those had very limited mobility because of safety concerns, and that was because of the susceptibility of the implanted devices to electric and magnetic fields. And we're talking about magnetic and electric fields of power frequency and radio frequency. You've all heard and seen signs around microwave ovens. Remember those? They're more prevalent maybe a couple decades ago. Well, that's not that's not a concern about power frequency EMF, that's concerned about the radio frequency EMF of the actual microwaves themselves. That's a misunderstanding, but still there's a concern. But in those earlier versions of implanted devices, people were so susceptible for interference that they weren't even allowed to be near TV sets. They were that sensitive. Now, over the decades, things have improved. As a matter of fact, I have 3 implanted device manufacturers here. I've gone to presentations by doctors and epidemiologists that talk about this very subject that we're talking about right now. I got 3 manufacturers here of their susceptibility to electric and magnetic fields as of 2016 at that conference that I went to. And those susceptibilities exceed almost all of the electric and magnetic fields that would be produced from our transmission lines. That means that the susceptibility would have to be greater, much greater than what they state to cause interference. Now, if you elevate people in those fields, or in those transmission lines, you would receive higher electric and magnetic fields. Now, that would be a concern for the person who has an implanted device. And the doctor should give, any doctor or surgeon should give advice on that. We cannot provide medical advice on that kind of situation.
Kim, let me interrupt you for a second. I think Commissioner Eggers, if you have more questions, maybe you could talk one-on-one with him about some of the concerns that you have, and we'll move on to see if there's any other questions concerning this.
Okay.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
If I may. First of all, please correct me if I'm wrong. Jeff, when you started your presentation, I heard you say part of the reason it was presented the way it was is because this is highly classified information. Was that, did I dream you said that? It was confidential, and you didn't want it out on.
I wouldn't rate it as highly classified. I'm just saying I can't show you a map of our transmission system and connect the dots as to what is serving what.
Right, but my point being, we live in a very interesting world right now, and I am concerned that you are talking engineers to engineers about very complicated nuclear electrical transmission over power lines that I don't have the expertise to, I don't know. I mean, I'm not educated on this issue to the point that you're talking, and I don't know that that's our responsibility as elected officials to get this deeply into the weeds on electrification of power transmissions.
Okay, understanding that, let me break it down. We can connect Commissioner Eggers and Kim together to talk about it from an simplistics for the rest of you. We did not decide to, not partner on this particular situation because of a safety concern. We decided that it was in our best interest to ensure that we protect that corridor from an incompatible encroachment, meaning that circular device that was going to go up there and everything, because it could at some point limit us from utilizing that corridor to its design potential.
I heard you when you said that.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where our decision is made from a business standpoint, not, again, safety dictates everything we do, but this decision was made on a business standpoint because we believe at some point in the mid-tier planning horizon, again, probably next decade, that we will need to increase the capacity in that particular corridor. If we choose to do an increased capacity in any other corridor, it would cause us to, worst case scenario, build a brand new corridor, which would be horrible from a residential perspective. Or we would have to expand corridors that aren't really designed to be expanded. This corridor has the capability to easily be expanded, and that expansion would create no additional problems for that at-grade trail. So again, it's one of those things that it's again, our decision is strictly planning horizon, not safety. And I can understand how the DOT would, because I'm sure that in the conversations, going back to Commissioner Egger's question, we were working on conceptual plans. So did we go out and do the complete engineering studies and everything to determine if it would be a concern from clearances? We did not, because we identified another reason why it shouldn't move forward. But the possibility does exist that, to Kim's point, if you did build on elevated structure, there could be clearance issues, but there was no reason to have the DOT go to the time and expense to do that planning when we have another reason, regardless of what the outcome of that engineering study would have been. We had another reason to say that, this is incompatible at this time and at this location.
Thank you very much for that.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Yes.
And my understanding, so if they were to, because you said it could be the next decade, it could be further down the road, and I understand you wanted to keep that because of where you want to go with it, and I understand that. So thinking outside the box with the way technology is and so forth, that if, we have amazing planners and some different things, that they were maybe to come up with something they could present to you that might work, that's not involving if it was a structure that could be moved or torn or taken down, if that was to come up at that time, could that be a possibility? Because nowadays they can put up structures for the race that has a walkthrough that they take down.
We would certainly take a look at it. My understanding, is there a DOT representative here? My understanding is that because of the 54-inch water main, the Pinellas County water main, and their Clearwater water main, that somewhat eliminates you from having any other workable scenarios. I don't want to put words in the mouth of this team, but that was my understanding that.
So we have Brian Hunter here from the Florida Department of Transportation. Brian, thanks for you and your team being here. I guess a couple things. One is for State Road 60, you have another solution, which is at grade, which you're prepared to talk about.
Yes.
For 580, which is where commissioners' concerns are, that was not as high a priority as the State Road 60 crossing, so we have not even developed concepts for that. So maybe you want to speak to maybe next steps for that too.
Okay, so, so at State Road 60 and Old Coachman Road, we've been working with our partners at Duke Energy. They've been very helpful with us. They've provided a lot of feedback on the concepts that we've worked with and shown them. And so we've come up with an at-grade concept that just kind of gives the basic footprint that would shift that crossing a little bit to the east so that we have a wider landing spot for pedestrians and bicyclists using the trail. Right now it's very neck down, and so we'd be able to move them onto the other side of the signal pole that's right there, give a wider landing spot, and cross at that point, pulling back the median nose. Duke has given us the thumbs up to go ahead with that concept in there. We need to work out some agreements with them, but we're on the path to do that. And some other things that we're going to put in at that crossing to make it safer for users of the trail. Some advanced warning signs, maybe some pavement markings that would show that there's a trail coming up, some ped-safe features on the signal where when a pedestrian hit the signal, it would make that left-hand turn for southbound Old Coachman a red light instead of the permissive red or permissive yellow that's out there right now. So it would really increase the safety, tightening up some of the radiuses so we shorten up that crossing distance as well, and making it a wider crosswalk and putting high visibility emphasis out there so that everybody really understands, hey, this is a widely used crossing and we bring attention to the pedestrians. Now for 580, we can certainly take a look at that and see if there's anything out there that we can do in the short term to improve the safety if there's a concern out there. Whit, if you want to send us some comments on things that you have seen or heard about out there, we'll be more than happy to take a look at that.
And we do know that the 580 is it's on the y'all's list of priority projects. And so we can certainly take a look at doing a much more robust crossing there and working with Duke to see if there is some sort of elevated solution that would work in that corridor with their infrastructure and the underground utilities that may be present out there.
Yeah, I think what I would like to do is avoid having this on the priority list for several years, anticipating that we're going to build an overpass, and then finding out when we start developing concepts that it's not feasible. So maybe what we could do before we try to get it funded for anything is let's see if there's an opportunity to work within that corridor, and if it's no, and we figure out plan B. And if it's yes, then we go through our prioritization process as normal and see how quickly we could get that done.
Yeah, I mean, we can start having those conversations with Duke and see if there's possible. I know that there's, at the old Coachman, there were a lot of underground utilities that really dictated where that went in their right-of-way out there. So it did pose some problems with putting it in certain locations that would hamper their future growth. And so there may be an opportunity at 580 to shift it to a different part of the right-of-way. So we did look at that, and in that corridor, because of all the size of the underground infrastructure, it was not possible. We even took a look at maybe we could go underground, but we would have had to have been so deep because of those underground utilities that it just wasn't feasible.
David, do you want to
Yeah,
ask
and
a
the only thing, I don't need it to meet with the engineer to talk about all the be-all and end-all of electromagnetic field. That's not what I was getting at. What I'm getting at is, and I think, Whit, you were touching on it, that when we did the planning for this corridor, in my mind, the assumption was that that was on the table for consideration and that there was not an electromagnetic issue. That's all I'm saying. And now, after the fact, and I think to Whit's point, I think we need to know sooner rather than later that the concept is a possibility. We may not get funding for 5 or 10 years for it, but I think it's frustrating that the cart was before the horse, because I certainly thought that that was a possibility when we planned that direction, because there was a couple of alternative routes that could have taken us down Countryside Boulevard and gone across at a street light, or down McMullen Booth and crossed at a street light, so we wouldn't have to deal with that. But that was never raised in my mind. At least I don't remember it being raised to the extent that we're raising it as a possibility. So perhaps these are just frustrating comments, but certainly no interest in sitting down and understanding all of the science behind electromagnetic field. So, but I think that that's something we got to get a handle on sooner rather than later. Because our residents are calling already about those lights on 580, and I don't know what to tell them. Now I'm telling them, well, we never had the idea of a trail crossing there, for crying out loud. We've always had them on 6-lane roads in Pinellas County. So in my mind, that was always there. Perhaps in FDOT's it wasn't. Who would want to put another light on 580? So to me, it would have been a priority for FDOT as well. But so I'll leave it at that. Enough of that airing out for today. But we'd certainly like to see the concept explored.
I think from my perspective, and hopefully from the board and the staff, we have a better understanding now, Jeff, so thank you and Kim for being here, because I think we understood that the whole corridor was not going to be feasible for any overpasses, and that doesn't appear to be the case. And it also sounds like that, at some point, maybe 10 years, 15 years from now, when you determine what your capacity upgrade needs are and you do that evaluation, we could come back and look at a future overpass once you figured out what you need in that corridor. Is that fair as well? Okay. That gives us more clarity, and Brian, we'll work with you and your team to figure out what the best solution is. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the at-grade improvement at 60 in Old Coachman slated for this year?
Yeah, so we keep forgetting to not get too close. I apologize for that. So we've been able to work out, when we started doing the design and finalizing concept for that crossing, we found out that design and survey was actually going to be more in construction. So we've worked with our traffic operations folks, and we're going to do that under a push-button design build. We're still finalizing the details, so that's not written in stone yet, but if that is the case, then that'll go into construction within a year, or be completed within a year from whenever we sign the notice to proceed on that.
So that's good news. Yeah.
And thank you both for being here, answering some of the questions.
Any other questions before they sit down? Anybody? Thank you so much.
Yeah, I just want to make sure you all had the information, because again, we haven't changed policies on right-of-way use or anything like that. So we just have to look at every situation on an individual situation, because there's unique parameters to every transmission line.
Okay, thank you, thank you. We're going to move to 7E, which is Safe Streets and Roads. Are you going to, is Chelsea here, or are you going to?
Chelsea's not here, but she's going to do it, and she's going to be pretty brief. I think we've got her plugged in
Hi, Chelsea.
virtually.
Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you very much for having me. Sorry I couldn't be there with you in person. So I'm going to be talking about the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant application that we're working towards putting together, hopefully. So a couple of years ago, we embarked on an effort at Ford Pinellas to really look at the concept of Vision Zero. And this is a concept that's, being looked at across the world. And the idea is really to get towards zero traffic deaths on our transportation network. And the reason that we took this on here in Pinellas County is that on average, 2 people are either killed or severely injured on our roadways every single day. And a lot of those injuries and fatalities are the bicycle, pedestrians, and motorcycles that are utilizing our facilities. And this number is far greater than the national average. The Dangerous by Design report just came out about a month or so ago, and our urbanized area is ranked as the 4th most deadly for pedestrians in the country. So we know that we have a problem here. And so we undertook the Safe Streets Pinellas effort to really identify solutions to address that problem. And we did that through the development of the Safe Streets Pinellas Action Plan. This board took action in early 2021 to approve that action plan. And that plan identified what you'll see up here on the screen, which is our high injury network. And this is where
it's not on the screen, Chelsea. We still need to get a PowerPoint up.
I'm sorry about that. Let me try that.
I'm working on it.
They're working on it. You all have it in your packet, by the way.
It says I'm sharing my screen now. Are you all not seeing it?
It's visible in Zoom, Chelsea. It's just not visible in this room.
Okay. Do you want me to wait a minute, or shall I just talk through without the graphics?
There you go. Go ahead.
They got it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so the high injury network is up here on your screen, and this is where the vast majority of the crashes, the serious and fatal crashes, are happening in Pinellas County. They're really concentrated on a relatively small portion of our roadways. So the Safe Streets Pinellas plan identified these areas, and then we also identified a series of other strategies that we could work with our local government partners to get us towards that goal of zero serious injuries and deaths on the network. During that process, we also adopted a resolution that really committed us all to working together to improve safety. And we went to every one of our local government partners and asked them to take action to also adopt that resolution. To date, 12 of our local governments have adopted that, and we are working very closely with a number of our beach communities to bring that number up even higher just in the next couple of weeks. So now that the action plan was developed, and we've identified our hot spots and areas, and we have those commitments from our local partners, we then received word through the federal bipartisan infrastructure legislation late last year that there was going to be a safety program for funding. And it's taken several months, but we're finally starting to see that funding come down. Maybe. There we go. So this SS4A, that's the Safe Streets for All program, includes $1 billion in funding nationwide for fiscal year 2022. And this funding is also available for the next 5 years. So each year there'll be about $1 billion for this program. Applications for this funding are due on September 15th, so just a few weeks away. And joint applications for funding were strongly encouraged. What we heard repeatedly from the federal government is that they don't want to see an MPO, a county, and a city all applying for essentially the same funding within the same geographic area. They really wanted to see some strong partnering. And there are 2 different types of grants that local governments and MPOs can go after. And it's either an action plan grant, and that's really just to develop what we really developed through the Safe Streets Pinellas program, or an implementation grant. Each agency can only submit one application for either one, both of these. You get one shot at it. So what we're looking to do is submit for an action plan grant. Now, because we already have Safe Streets Pinellas, we already have a very strong foundation. But Safe Streets Pinellas didn't get down to the individual roadway level to identify improvements to for safety in each area. So that's what we're going to be planning to go for. A 20% local match is required. And when we go for the planning grant, there is a $1 million limit for that funding. So this is the framework for the application that we're going to be putting together. We actually already have a draft of this. It's going to be a joint application with Ford Pinellas, the county, Dunedin, Gulfport, Largo, and Oldsmar. We're looking at approximately $100,000 to $200,000 per jurisdiction. And this amount is going to fluctuate because each jurisdiction has very unique safety needs. Ford Pinellas would manage the funds, and our general planning consultants would be brought on to manage the planning activities. Each of these 5 communities have identified specific areas to focus on. And they're not necessarily looking at the high injury network, although 2 of the roadways are on the high injury network, but really just areas of concern, both on and off the state roadway network. And what we plan to do is, if we are successful with getting this funding, we've already identified the geographic areas we'll look at, but we'll start with an evaluation of specific safety projects in each one of these defined areas, because each area, again, is very, very unique. One example is the city of Largo wants to look at Alt 19 from Ulmerton up to 8th. And the challenges along that roadway are going to be very different than what Oldsmar is looking to do south of State Road 580 in their community. That also includes an elementary school. So that's step 1 will be what's going on, what are the problems. We'll do a detailed assessment of each one of those fatal and serious injury crashes to see really what's happening aside from just pure statistics. We'll commit to doing a walking audit with the community to talk about the community's take on what those challenges are. And then we plan to do a community workshop to vet those recommended improvements that we come up with the community to develop buy-in. And then this will also include presentations to the local governing board for each of these jurisdictions. We're currently circulating a memorandum of understanding that each one of these jurisdictions will sign on to before we submit the application in September. And that really just solidifies the roles and responsibilities and our joint commitment if we were to receive the funding through this program. So this is the general timeline with the application due in a few weeks. Funding announcements will be made in December. In January, we'll finalize a scope approach for each of the jurisdictions involved. Planning studies would begin in February. We'd wrap up around July or August, and we'll have community engagement throughout the study timeline. And another thing that we've really committed to doing is we don't just want to identify a list of strategies, we want to make sure that they actually get built. So we've committed to working with all of the partners on this grant to develop either future grant applications, maybe for Safe Streets for All implementation funds, or getting the projects added to our priority list to make sure that the projects that we identify can then move forward and actually get constructed. And that's all I have for you today. I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Chelsea. Is there anyone that has any questions for Chelsea concerning Vision Zero and Safe Streets? Chelsea, I got a question. Are you planning on going out to the other cities that are not a part of the 4 that are involved in the grant?
So we announced it at our TCC meeting, our technical coordinating committee, and we asked who was interested. We had a few people come up to us then, a few governments, and then we reached out to a few of the others that we hadn't heard of that we had ideas for to see if they'd be interested. So at this point, given that the grant is due in just a few weeks, we do not plan to go back out to seek further partners. Okay. We'll probably just stay where we're at with the 4 and then us.
Okay. And Whit, you wanted to?
I think in future years, we can certainly do that. Yeah. So if Pinellas Park or Clearwater or any other city wanted to work with us, we would do that. I wanted to add that Chelsea mentioned 12 local governments have adopted. 2 weeks ago, we had the Barrier Islands Government Council adopt the resolution. I count that as the beach community, so I feel like we've got those. Tarpon Springs adopted it recently. I understand Pinellas Park is going to be considering it in the near future. And then I have August 29th, I'm going to the Clearwater City Council workshop to ask them to formally adopt it. And so I'm feeling like we're getting there. Maybe Seminole would be the next
I was
city.
going to say, Tina, if you can make an appointment possibly for Whit and I to go to Seminole to see the mayor and whoever her staff is to talk about it. We can set up a meeting.
Yeah, we'd like to get unanimous, but
Yeah.
I think we've made good progress, and I think we're in good position to be successful this year round. And I know St. Petersburg is submitting an implementation grant on its own as well.
Quick question.
Yes.
So the cities that are listed up there are the only ones that'll be available, that the money will be available to only them, not to any of the other cities?
For this application, correct. It would
And
be
then-
for the sub-area within those communities.
Okay.
Now, can we apply every year for that grant?
We can. It's a 5-year authorized funding level. Congress needs to reauthorize the money in the program, but that's part of the budgetary process. It's part of the 5-year infrastructure law.
So if your city has a project and you guys are a part of the Safe Streets, then we can reapply, correct?
We can.
But it wouldn't be for 5 years?
Well, it might be next year. I mean,
Next year.
it's a 5-year program, so each year there'll be a call for projects, presumably. I want to stress also that this is not the only avenue for safety improvements. We can work with our department partners if it's on a state highway. We can work with the county. We can do our own analysis if need be. So I certainly will never turn down a safety opportunity on any of our roadways.
Thank you. Next, we have Rodney Chapman, and he is going to do 7E, amended the fiscal year 23 annual budget for Pinellas Planning Council. Yay.
Yes, one of my favorite subjects. Good afternoon, board members. Rodney Chapman, Planning Manager here at Fort Pinellas. I'll be brief with this update and this action that we need you to take. And the reason that we're seeing this, again, because the board did act on the budget for fiscal year 23 back in June, is because the July meeting was canceled and the property appraiser projection updates were released July 1st. So there's been a couple changes. That's strange. Missing the first bullet point there for some reason. But there's been a couple of changes to the budget since the July 1 update from the property appraiser. The first change is that the property tax revenue projections have increased slightly. So if you recall to the budget that I presented back in June, the property tax revenue increase projections were based on a 12.2% increase, but reflecting the July 1st update, that increase is now 13.1%. So what does that mean for our budget? It is that there's a little bit over $20,000 in property tax revenues that was added to our budget, and then those dollars were then allocated to our unassigned fund balance. The other change that was made to the FY23 budget was related to the pay adjustment that we plan to make available to our staff for next fiscal year. If you recall, back in June, some of the board did ask some very good questions about our plans for that pay adjustment to reflect the tight labor market and the current challenges we have with retaining and recruiting staff. And so since June, the county administrator has led a discussion with the other appointing authorities on how best to structure a pay adjustment regime so that the county and the appointing authorities are in a strong position to attract and retain staff. And so a concept was developed, which you see here. Essentially, it is 3 parts. The first is the typical 3% cost of living adjustment that is typically made every year, and the past practice for those in the unified personnel system is that the 3% is not based on your current salary. It's actually based on the midpoint of your salary range. So if you are below that midpoint, then you get a little bit more. If you're above the midpoint, then you get a little bit less. The second piece to this framework would be that there would be an additional 58 cents an hour, or about $1,200 a year allocated and based on your base salary. So again, it's a little bit different than that first bullet in that it's not based on your midpoint. It's actually based on the salary that you make per hour. And again, that works out to about $1,200 for the average employee. And then the third piece of this would be a one-time non-recurring pay supplement of $1,200 that would be paid to our staff in 2 equal installments over the course of the next fiscal year. So totaling all that up, it would result in a 7% pay adjustment for our staff for fiscal year 23. The overall fiscal impact of this pay, I'll say creative pay structure, would be a little over $23,000 to the fiscal year 23 budget. We had talked in the past about the need to ensure that our revenues equaled our expenditures, and so with the adjustment on the property tax revenues and this creative approach to pay adjustments for fiscal year 23, it has impacted that balance that we talked about back in June. So the current budget is about $11,000 sort of in a deficit position, but we feel pretty comfortable with where we are now, because that's a much smaller number that we should be able to absorb as we move forward in future fiscal years. Next steps is just to have the board act on the updated budget, and then the Board of County Commissioners will adopt the fiscal year 23 budget and millage rates at 2 public hearings in September. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Rodney? No questions. Tina, is there anyone who would like to speak on this?
No, Madam Chair, there is not.
Thank you. We'll close the public, and we will look for the board to adopt the amended fiscal year 23 annual budget. Okay. And are we going to take a roll call on this? We don't need to. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries, and we will move on to the director's report.
Okay, I'll be very brief on this. I just wanted to give everybody a heads up. We've already talked about a few of these items on the spotlight. First of all, I wanted to mention, it's already been discussed, that the Roundabout construction is happening at Alt 19 and Florida Avenue. This has been a priority on our priority list for some years. There was a lot of back and forth over the development of this concept. Some of you who participated in those meetings know that at some meetings there was a lot of opposition, at other meetings there was a lot of support, and it varied. The engineering team, our staff, Florida Department of Transportation all felt that the roundabout was the best choice given the redevelopment objectives of that area, the connection of Psta Park to the west, the location of the trail, and the fact that it's a slower speed zone through that area in Palm Harbor. And we think that this will actually reduce the amount of delay compared to a traffic signal if one was installed at Nebraska. So it's nice to see projects that are on the priority list start to have construction. We've already heard about the Clearwater aerial gondola public survey that is still open, so look forward to seeing the results of that. And then I wanted to let the board know that St. Pete Beach and Treasure Island are about to sign off on initiation of a safety study for Gulf Boulevard that will initiate in September. And they are paying for that study. It's not federally funded, but they put in their money for it, and we're managing that work. And we're looking forward to implementable solutions for Gulf Boulevard. And I'll just roll right into a couple of other items under Director's Report, again, just being very brief. We are beginning our procurement process for planning consultants. We had to modify some of the language, and we have a 1-year extension of our current consultants, so we're not going to be without any available resources, but starting this fall and then beginning really in February, we will have a request for proposals put out on the street for planning consultants. And we'll update the board as necessary about that, but I wanted you to be aware of that. We will be issuing our call for projects for complete streets, transportation alternatives, and the multimodal project priority list later this fall. We are looking to avoid some of the conflicts that are happening this fall with grant applications due for the federal government because there's so much infrastructure money now. All these grants, it seems like they come out about once a week. There was just a new one issued today, and they're all due in the same time frame that we have our call for projects. So we're going to try and push that back a little bit, but the board will still need to take action probably in March of 2023 so that we can begin to get these projects in the new fifth year of the work program for DOT. The next item is really important, is item 8D. The department is working with us to plan a safety workshop for elected officials, and we have targeted October 14th, that's a Friday, from 10 to 12 at the Epicenter off of 58th Street and Ulmerton Road. And it is a discussion of how we move the safety needle on our roadways, which is critically important. And I'm so glad that the department is a partner in this. You know, things like roundabouts, things like lane modifications, smart technology are all part of the solution for better safety. And the department will make this an interactive dialogue. It won't be a bunch of lectures. It will be hearing from you as elected officials. And I really strongly encourage you to invite your fellow commissioners or council members to attend. And we'll also be reaching out to chambers of commerce and other business groups as well. And we have a companion technical workshop with our technical coordinating committee coming up soon as well. And then finally, the Mpo Advisory Council had a meeting July 28th in Gainesville, and Commissioner Michael Smith accompanied me, and it was really informative. It was at the State Materials Lab. I won't go into how much I geeked out over asphalt and aggregate and other materials about building roads. It was fun. But the MPOAC has a policy institute for new governing board members that has been suspended for a little while because of their own procurement issues. And that will be reinitiated. So they're going to have a call. They're going to have, I think it's $100,000, an RFP for consultants to help them reimagine that course, and it will be renewed next year. So I wanted to give everybody a heads up about that. And unless there are questions for me, those are the ones that I had on my radar. Yes, sir.
A comment was made by David when he commented earlier that that there are no other roundabouts. And if you could just maybe comment briefly on the roundabouts, certainly down in the Sarasota Manatee area, but just some others that are in place and maybe a little, and not go into great detail, but just a little bit what's going on out there.
Sure. Well, roundabouts have been around for a long time, but they've really evolved. So we're calling these modern roundabouts now. They're not the traffic circles or rotaries that we sometimes see in the Northeast and in other states that had a bad safety record, frankly. And our design thinking has certainly evolved since the Clearwater roundabout was built. There's a roundabout on the Pinellas Bayway that's fairly new. I think that's the first state road with a roundabout in Pinellas County. Sarasota is building and has constructed roundabouts on US 41 as they approach into downtown. And that was part of an effort not unlike Palm Harbor, although on a very different scale, where the city of Sarasota had an issue with connecting downtown to the Bayfront, which is a major destination. And they had just a huge amount of traffic, and it was very difficult to cross US 41. And a series of roundabouts at Gulfstream, at Fruitville, and 10th Street and 14th Street have all been in place on US 41 to ease that transition between the downtown destination and the Bayfront destination. And it took a long time to get there, but District 1 really did a great job working with the community. City of Sarasota did a great job, and they're now built and operating. I like to tell people that nobody ever really has any issues with the roundabout on Central and 11th in St. Petersburg, or the roundabout on Indian Rocks Road in Bel Air.
Bel Air.
Those work pretty well. So I'm confident that because we have a 30, 35 mile an hour zone here in Palm Harbor, that this one will have similar success.
to that roundabout's designed for what, 12 to 15?
Yeah, approximately 12 miles an hour.
Yeah, so I think it will be slowing down, but that area there, now we have golf cart crossings as well at Georgia, so there's a lot of activity in there. Anyway, I know that there's mixed feelings about it, and it's certainly at the first meeting that David talked about, there were a lot of strong opposition.
Sure.
But after the meeting, I was there, a lot of people came up quietly to talk in favor of it because it was quite boisterous, if you remember, against it. And I think people were a little bit intimidated to talk about it. So I know there's mixed support for it, and I think, what sold me on it was the District 7 Secretary said, if it's a disaster, we'll take it out.
Right.
And you don't want to look at, expenditure of funds like that, but if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I think they feel very confident. Certainly they move forward on this to feel very confident this is the right solution.
It's a tool in the toolbox.
Yeah.
They're not applicable everywhere, just like a lot of our strategies, but where they work, they can really have a big effect. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
What, are we going to talk about, or just mention that we have the meeting that we're going to have with everybody in December?
Yeah, I'd be happy to, and I've drafted an agenda, so I'm going to ask for everybody's indulgence that normally you get December off, but our chair, Mayor Kennedy, would like to have a workshop where we talk about the future. We're kicking off our long-range plan, and she wants to hear from you about what your goals are for the coming year, even from Commissioner Mers, who's terming out. We want to hear about the future. And we are inviting several of our mayors we're inviting all the mayors. We'll ask several of them to speak and have a roundtable discussion on the things we want to work together on as we move forward, because that's really our purpose here. Is we don't build anything, we don't operate anything. We get funding from various sources, but really it's building consensus and figuring out how we can solve problems together. So that'll be the day of our board meeting, which is December, is it the 14th?
Yes.
Yeah.
And if any of you have anything that you think you'd like to bring to the table, whether it would be you speak or have wit or whatever, that would be awesome. But this is like a broader view of who we are, and I would just like to do that before I leave. If it'd be okay with all of you. So. Anyway, is there any questions for the rest? If there isn't anything else, then I'm going to move for an adjournment. Yes?
Not a question on that, but just something that might be interesting to everybody and also interested in since the discussion we had at the Teals discussion earlier today. I had the pleasure of inviting someone from AM Skills to come and give a presentation at our commission meeting recently. And that's a program which has been around for a number of years. It's migrated, but it's basically looking at different ways to identify and train people for the workforce. And I offered the mention that I found it to be an interesting presentation, and members here might find it as well, not only looking at training people, but also how those trained people can benefit and get involved in individual communities. So I mentioned it to Whit. If you would, you can take a look at the presentation that he provided to us. See if there's something that you think might be of benefit to the board here, and if so, I would suggest that it would be a good presentation for everyone.
Okay. Love it. And anyone else, get in touch with Whit, if you would. Okay. Thank you. We're adjourned. Thank you for staying.